Hollywood's quintessential tough guy, Charles Bronson, left a legacy beyond his memorable parts in movies like Death Wish. Beneath his tough exterior was a family man with unexpected wealth that surprised everyone. Bronson's wealth has left his family in shock and tears after a stellar career spanning decades and a private life full of twists. But what's the backstory of this enormous fortune? What psychological effects has the action star's wealth secretly had on his loved ones? Join us as we explore the fascinating tale of Charles Bronson's life, wealth, and unspoken secrets. From coal mines to Hollywood. The rise to prominence of Charles Bronson is genuinely remarkable. He was the 11th child in a struggling Lithuanian-American family of 15, born Charles Dennis Buczynski on November 3, 1921, in the tiny coal mining town of Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania. Charles had to start working in the mines at a young age to support his family when Bronson's father, a coal miner, passed away when he was 10. Due to family financial difficulties, he frequently wore his elder siblings' clothing, including dresses, while working in challenging conditions for little compensation. These early years helped him develop the tenacity and fortitude that would eventually characterize his recognizable on-screen presence despite the difficult conditions. Bronson was a tail gunner in the United States during World War II. He was decorated with a Purple Heart for his valor in the Army Air Forces. His quick ascent in Hollywood was made possible by this combination of hardship and success, which turned the son of an immigrant miner into a well-liked movie star. The transition to acting. Bronson returned to the United States after World War II with no clear plan for the future. He studied at the Pasadena Playhouse while working odd jobs, such as janitor, because he was initially interested in art. But he immediately began to think about acting because of his rugged good looks and dominating personality. He started trying out and got modest jobs in the 1950s, frequently performing uncredited roles in westerns and war movies after being encouraged by his friends. During this period, he changed his name to Charles Bronson to escape any potential prejudice related to his Slavic last name, Buczynski. An intriguing story from this era is that Bronson was chosen for several movies based on the filmmaker's fascination with his intense gaze. He gradually cleared the path to become a leading actor in the 1960s as his perseverance paid off and he was cast in important roles. His journey is reminiscent of the timeless Hollywood story of tenacity in adversity. Breakthrough role. Charles Bronson's Hollywood fame was built mainly on his performance in The Magnificent Seven, 1960. Bronson gave his portrayal of Bernardo O'Reilly, a talented but modest gunslinger who defends a community from bandits, nuance and compassion. Both critics and viewers praised Bronson for his subtle portrayal, although other cast members like Steve McQueen and Yul Brynner received more significant notice. Curiously, one of the most memorable scenes in the movie is when his character interacts with the local kids and expresses his moral quandaries. Behind the scenes, Bronson was first reluctant to accept the part out of concern that he would be relegated to supporting parts. However, Magnificent Seven's success was demonstrated differently since his performance was well received worldwide, especially in Europe and Japan. In addition to showcasing his variety as an actor, this movie set the stage for his eventual rise to fame in Hollywood, turning him from a little-known actor to a globally popular figure. Rise to global stardom with The Great Escape. Charles Bronson's status as a Hollywood titan was cemented when he played Danny Tunnel King Valinsky in the iconic war movie The Great Escape, 1963. Steve McQueen and James Garner were among the ensemble cast members of the picture, which was based on actual events, but Bronson's performance as a Polish prisoner of war sent to construct escape tunnels stood out. Bronson drew on his personal experience as a coal miner to give the part realism, including emulating his actual claustrophobia, which gave his portrayal more emotional impact. A fascinating behind-the-scenes story is that Bronson nearly declined the part due to his aversion to cramped areas, but director John Sturges persuaded him to accept the challenge. The movie's worldwide acclaim, especially in Europe, contributed to Bronson's fame. His starring parts in action movies and westerns were made possible by his ability to portray both hardness and vulnerability, which won him over audiences. European Success and Once Upon a Time in the West. With his travels throughout Europe, which culminated in Sergio Leone's epic Once Upon a Time in the West, 1968, Bronson's rise to international superstardom took an unprecedented turn. Bronson's performance of the mysterious harmonica combined mystery, passion, and unadulterated emotion. Composer Ennio Morricone's brilliant use of harmonica's eerie musical motif, played whenever he appears, is featured in one of the most famous scenes in movie history. It's interesting to note that Bronson wasn't Leone's first pick for the part. Henry Fonda was first thought of, but in the end, Bronson's tough exterior was an excellent fit. The movie, which combined suspense, retaliation, and traditional Western themes, struck a chord with European viewers and made Bronson a household figure. Many people regard Bronson's performance in Once Upon a Time in the West as a classic, and it continues to be one of his most memorable roles. His contributions to European film also impacted Hollywood, raising the bar for Western's artistic quality. Death Wish and the Vigilante Archetype. Charles Bronson's career took a significant turn in 1974 with Death Wish, which made him the archetypal representation of vigilante justice. Bronson represents the moral difficulties of revenge by playing Paul Kersey, a mild-mannered architect who turns into a vigilante after his wife is killed and his daughter is abused. Critics disagreed on how the movie depicted urban violence, which led to contentious discussions about crime, punishment, and justice. Despite the controversy, Death Wish, which made over $22 million on a small budget, became a huge commercial success. Audiences were moved by Bronson's quiet yet impactful performance, especially those who were dealing with the 1970s soaring crime rates. It's interesting to note that Bronson first hesitated to accept the part because he thought it might glorify violence. Still, his nuanced performance balanced the character's anguish and resolution. The movie produced 4 follow-ups, solidifying Bronson's reputation as an action star. Death Wish, which emphasizes Bronson's capacity to handle ethically challenging roles, continues to be a cultural icon. Bronson's unique acting style. Unlike his peers, Charles Bronson had a distinct acting technique. Bronson, known for using less is more, seldom used ornate gestures or drawn-out conversations. Instead, he used intentional body language, piercing stares, and nuanced gestures to convey emotions. His performances gained a degree of reality from this simple approach, which helped his characters become more approachable and realistic. His ability to evoke a sense of mystery, frequently leaving viewers to speculate about the underlying motivations of his characters, was an intriguing part of his technique. Directors often commended Bronson's natural sense of when to hold back for giving his performances a genuine feel. In addition, his co-stars praised his professionalism, pointing out that he was a quiet man on and off screen. Actors are still motivated by Bronson's ability to arouse strong emotions with such restraint because of his distinctive style, which distinguished him in a time when celebrities were dominant. He was dubbed the thinking man's action star. Relationships and marriages. Charles Bronson experienced love, sorrow, and resiliency in his private life. Their early hardships were the foundation for his first marriage to Harriet Tendler in 1949. They helped one another while Bronson worked. Despite having 2 children together, the couple separated in 1965 due to the distance caused by Bronson's growing fame and their divergent goals. Perhaps the most significant relationship of his life was his second marriage to actress Jill Ireland in 1968. They first became involved in controversy when they met through familiar friend David McCallum, Ireland's then husband. Despite this, they became one of Hollywood's most enduring couples as their love blossomed. Bronson and Ireland worked together on several movies as a popular duo on and off screen. But after a protracted fight, tragedy struck in 1990 when Jill lost her fight with breast cancer. Bronson's love for her during her illness demonstrated his sensitive personal side. In his later years, he founded a company in his marriage to Kim Weeks in 1998. Collaborations with Jill Ireland. Jill Ireland and Bronson had a remarkable relationship that went beyond their personal lives and became a defining feature of their work lives. Together, the pair starred in more than 15 movies, with notable roles in Hard Times, 1975, Breakheart Pass, 1975, and The Mechanic, 1972. Audiences were drawn into the genuineness of their performances by their on-screen relationship, which reflected their real-life bond. Interestingly, Ireland frequently portrayed roles that balanced Bronson's harsh, stoic personas with a touch of tenderness. Producers often cast them as a package deal because they worked closely together. Beyond their filmography, they used their profile to raise money and support research, co-authored books, and publicly promote breast cancer awareness during Ireland's illness. Supporters valued their dynamic as much for its artistic merits as for the window it offered into their long-lasting romance. Their continued cooperation shows how closely their personal and professional lives were entwined. Controversies and criticism. There were specific problems during Charles Bronson's career, especially about the Death Wish trilogy. Critics claimed that the movies promoted conservative ideas about crime and justice and extolled violence and vigilantism. The series was criticized for its sensationalist and unduly simplified depiction of urban violence and ruin. However, Bronson defended his work, claiming that the film's ability to appeal to viewers' anxieties and annoyances over the escalating crime rates of the 1970s and 1980s was why they did so. It's interesting to note that the controversy around the series spurred broader conversations about how movies influence how the public views justice. Despite the criticism, the films continued to have a sizable fan following. Bronson remained steadfast in his conviction that the tales were more about how people deal with tragedy than about promoting violence. He managed the conflicts and preserved his standing as an engaging actor thanks to this balanced viewpoint. Life after Jill Ireland's passing. There was a massive hole in Charles Bronson's life after Jill Ireland passed away in 1990. Her death signaled the end of a profoundly emotional and professional relationship after 22 years of marriage. As he dealt with the loss, Bronson, known for having a strong demeanor, revealed a more vulnerable side. He took a break from his successful job to concentrate on his family, which consisted of 7 children, 2 from his first marriage, 3 adopted, and 2 biological with Ireland. Most of Bronson's time was spent at his house in Vermont, where he supported his children during their sadness and immersed himself in introspection. He persisted in paying tribute to Ireland's memory by promoting cancer advocacy and awareness despite his suffering. Interestingly, his roles following Ireland's death exhibited a softer, more reflective tone, as evidenced by movies such as The Indian Runner, 1991. Fans were won over by his fortitude in the face of personal tragedy, revealing the guy behind the Hollywood star. Lesser-known roles and hidden gems. Even though Charles Bronson is well known for his popular flicks like Death Wish and The Magnificent Seven, his lesser-known works showcase a wide range of skill and adaptability. Rider on the Rain, 1970, a French psychological thriller that garnered him praise from European critics, is one such masterpiece. Playing a mystery investigator, he demonstrated his ability to move away from action-packed parts into character-driven narrative. Mr. Majestic, 1974, in which Bronson portrayed a Vietnam veteran who became a melon farmer fighting corruption, is another noteworthy example of a film that combines action and social critique. Movies like Red Sun, 1971, a cross-cultural western in which Toshiro Mifune co-starred, also demonstrated Bronson's readiness to experiment with unusual storylines. These parts, frequently overshadowed by his successful films, highlight his versatility as an actor and his dedication to trying out many genres. These undiscovered treasures provide viewers who are prepared to delve further into a new understanding of Bronson's filmography. Bronson's work ethic. Charles Bronson was renowned for his commitment to his art. Those who collaborated with him characterized him as modest, disciplined, and careful despite his harsh and even threatening on-screen attitude. He was renowned for showing up on set prepared, having studied the subtleties of his role and committed his lines to memory. To concentrate on his family and work, Bronson chose a solitary life over the party culture in Hollywood. Interestingly, directors respected his straightforward filming style and ability to portray nuanced emotions with little language. Despite his quiet manner, co-stars have praised his constant professionalism and collaborative spirit. Bronson maintained a strict fitness regimen into his senior years to ensure he could perform challenging roles. This unwavering dedication helped him achieve long-term success and established a benchmark for actors in the drama and action genres. Health struggles in later years. Charles Bronson had serious health issues in his last years, such as Alzheimer's disease. After receiving a diagnosis in the late 1990s, the illness eventually affected his memory and productivity, forcing him to withdraw from performing. Bronson continued to be a rock for his family despite these difficulties. His kids and his third wife, Kim Weeks, supported him and ensured he had the best treatment available. An intriguing story is that, even while he was unwell, Bronson's character, his quiet fortitude and dry humor, would sometimes come through and console those closest to him. His later years were spent in the peace of the California coast at his home in Malibu. Bronson died on August 30, 2003, at 81, surrounded by loved ones. His fight with Alzheimer's disease brought to light his tenacity and his family's undying devotion, leaving a legacy as a cherished dad and actor. Why his family cried. Learning of his estimated $65 million inheritance after his death was a bittersweet experience for Charles Bronson's family. In addition to being a heartfelt remembrance of the man they had lost, the enormous fortune was a tribute to his perseverance and long-term success in Hollywood. The riches represented to his children and family his financial savvy and his strong desire to support them. It's interesting to note that Bronson had always kept his money to himself, preferring to prioritize the safety and well-being of his family. His family's tears were a mixture of pride, thankfulness, and longing for the guy whose courage and commitment had molded their lives. This emotional reaction gave his legacy a personal touch by reminding the world that a man who loved and was loved in return was beneath his strong, stoic exterior. His net worth and financial legacy. Charles Bronson's career and financial success were equally impressive. His estimated net worth of $65 million at his death in 2003 was evidence of his lasting popularity and astute commercial acumen. He frequently negotiated hefty contracts for his renowned films, contributing significantly to his income. At the height of his career, Bronson reportedly made $1 million for each picture, which was uncommon in the 1970s and 1980s, making him one of the highest-paid actors of his day. In addition to his acting salary, Bronson made prudent real estate investments and now owns homes in Vermont and Malibu. His children and his wife, Kim Weeks, inherited his wealth. Curiously, his fortune was said to have been bittersweet to the family because it represented the achievement of a life devoted to tenacity and hard labor. In addition to ensuring his family's future, Bronson's wealth highlighted the extraordinary path of a coal miner's son who became a Hollywood icon. Influence on action cinema. There is no denying Charles Bronson's influence on action films. His depictions of strict, unyielding people established the foundation for the contemporary action hero archetype. His ability to give characters that could have easily been one-dimensional nuance and realism was showcased in films such as Death Wish and Hard Times. Bruce Willis, Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger were among the future celebrities who publicly acknowledged Bronson's impact on their careers. Bronson's understated approach revolutionized on-screen action hero representation, which relied on nuance rather than ostentatious spectacle. In addition, filmmakers frequently used his work as a model for crafting gripping, character-driven stories in the genre. For example, the Die Hard and Rambo series show remnants of Bronson's subtle roughness. Even in today's action movies, actors and directors continue to be influenced by Bronson's ability to blend emotional nuance with physical intensity. Audiences are still moved by his classic performances, solidifying his status as an action genre pioneer. Collaborations with directors. Working with some of the best filmmakers in the business enhanced Charles Bronson's career. The creator of Once Upon a Time in the West, Sergio Leone, used Bronson's austere demeanor to create one of the most recognizable Western characters ever. Bronson's propensity to excel in ensemble casts was highlighted by John Sturges, who directed him in The Magnificent Seven and The Great Escape. Bronson collaborated with the Death Wish trilogy director Michael Winner, who used the actor's unadulterated passion to produce films that divided reviewers but enthralled viewers. Through these partnerships, Bronson was able to showcase his versatility as an actor by adjusting to various genres and narrative techniques. Interestingly, Bronson and Leone had a close working relationship. According to reports, Leone postponed Once Upon a Time in the West's production until Bronson was free to star. In addition to influencing Bronson's career, these director-actor collaborations enhanced the cinema canon. Relationships with co-stars. Despite his reclusive demeanor, Charles Bronson enjoyed special moments with iconic co-stars. He had a strong relationship with Steve McQueen during The Magnificent Seven, and their mutual rivalry inspired both performers to give their most outstanding performances. After collaborating on several films, Bronson and James Coburn became lifetime friends, demonstrating their friendship beyond the screen. Another co-star from The Magnificent Seven, Yul Brynner, praised Bronson's quiet resolve and commitment to his work. One of Hollywood's most renowned collaborations is still Bronson and Jill Ireland's on- and off-screen connection, which gives their movies a more genuine feel. Interestingly, Bronson's relationships weren't always cordial. He had issues with some performers who thought he was distant because he was introverted. Nonetheless, those who worked closely with him frequently commended his professionalism and dedication. These connections demonstrate Bronson's capacity to relate to his peers, improve his performances, and elevate the movies he starred in. Iconic Western persona. Charles Bronson was the archetypal Western hero because of his rugged appearance, intense stare, and quiet intensity. His mastery of the genre was demonstrated by his roles in movies such as The White Buffalo, 1977, a heartbreaking story of obsession and redemption, and Chato's Land, 1972, in which he played a half-Native American seeking retribution. In contrast to the showy cowboys of previous Westerns, Bronson gave his characters a sense of subtlety and realism. Audiences responded favorably to his portrayals of survival, justice, and moral complexity because they respected his ability to express strength without using words. Recognizing Bronson's innate affinity for Westerns, directors such as Sergio Leone cast him in Once Upon a Time in the West, where he gave one of his most famous performances as harmonica. It's interesting to see how strong, resilient, and uncompromising Bronson's off-screen image reflected his on-screen persona. His contributions to the genre have had a lasting impact and influenced many subsequent Western films. Controversial film choices. The Death Wish series is the most contentious among the divisive films in Charles Bronson's oeuvre. These films were criticized for their apparent promotion of cruelty due to their vivid depictions of violence and vigilante punishment. The sensationalist depiction of urban crime in Death Wish 2 and Death Wish 3 in particular drew criticism. Critics claimed that these films promoted harmful stereotypes and lacked depth. Bronson, however, justified his participation by pointing out that the movies resonated with viewers because they addressed genuine anxieties about the rise in crime in the 1970s and 1980s. Interestingly, despite provoking intense discussions among critics, these movies found a home with audiences worldwide and became box office successes. Bronson showed his dedication to parts that defied social conventions by staying in the series despite the criticism. His career was defined by these contentious decisions, which also spurred more general conversations about how movies reflect and influence public opinion. His love for art. Charles Bronson had a strong love for art before he became an actor. His artistic tendencies first made him think about a career as a painter or sculptor while he was a student at the Pasadena Playhouse. Interestingly, Bronson retained his graphic arts skills after becoming a Hollywood star. He found comfort in artistic expression and frequently turned to painting and sculpture to release the stress of performing. Those who have seen some of his privately exhibited pieces praised his emotional and meticulous attention to detail. Bronson, who believed in the transformational potential of creativity, also backed art initiatives for youngsters from disadvantaged backgrounds. His artistic training probably impacted his acting style, as he carefully considered his role's emotional and visual elements. This little-known aspect of Bronson's life reveals a complex personality that combines the tough action hero with a sensitive and reflective artist. The quiet hero. Charles Bronson's stoic on-screen attitude was reflected in his off-screen persona. Known for his modest demeanor, he chose a family-focused, tranquil existence over the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Even though he was well-known, Bronson maintained his modesty by frequently avoiding public appearances and interviews. Friends and co-workers said he was modest, devoted, and fiercely protective of his loved ones. Interestingly, his unwillingness to chase attention added to his mystique and won him over to people who valued his genuineness. Bronson was also well known for his deeds of compassion, such as discreetly assisting crew workers or struggling performers without aiming for fame. He was a real, quiet hero because his assertive demeanor and kind heart blended, making it difficult to distinguish between the real him and the characters he played. His reputation as a quiet yet incredibly influential person is a key component of his allure, proving that humility and strength coexist. Awards and accolades. Remarkably, Charles Bronson won comparatively few official honors despite his 5-decade career and legacy of famous roles. The genre-focused character of his work, action and Western films are sometimes disregarded during awards season, may be the reason for this lack of recognition by major award bodies. However, trophies are not the only way to gauge Bronson's impact on film. Film retrospectives that honored his singular influence and Lifetime Achievement Awards recognized his achievements in the business. In 1972, he was awarded the Golden Globe Henrietta Award for World Film Favorite, demonstrating his widespread appeal to worldwide viewers. Some fans were perplexed by his lack of accolades, but Bronson appeared unconcerned with the praise, preferring to concentrate on giving performances that moved the audience. Ultimately, his lasting impact, cult following, and peer respect highlight his profound effect on the field and demonstrate that genuine excellence frequently goes beyond accolades. Longevity in Hollywood. Charles Bronson's career proved his adaptability and tenacity in a field characterized by short-lived celebrity. He smoothly transitioned from supporting parts in the 1950s to significant roles in some of Hollywood's most famous movies over 50 years. Bronson's versatility guaranteed his relevance for years, whether he was a war veteran, a vigilante hero, or a Western gunslinger. Bronson adjusted to changing film trends, adopting the brutal reality of action movies from the 1970s while maintaining his signature stoicism. It's interesting to note that his success in Europe in the 1960s boosted his career further and gave him chances to try out a variety of roles. Directors and co-stars respected Bronson for his unrelenting work ethic and commitment to his trade, which guaranteed him regular employment as he grew older. His continued on-screen persona reinforces his reputation as a Hollywood classic by reminding him of his extraordinary capacity to engage audiences. Legacy in pop culture. The influence of Charles Bronson goes well beyond his movies and into many facets of popular culture. His reputation as a cultural icon has been solidified by references to his gruff, stoic persona in literature, art, and music. While Bronson-esque characters frequently inspire graphic novels and computer games, Quentin Tarantino, for instance, has honored Bronson's aesthetic in his films. The word Bronson-esque has come to be used to refer to rugged, uncompromising heroes. Interestingly, his image has even affected humor. In the 2008 biographical film Bronson, British comedian Tom Hardy took up Bronson's name when he played an eccentric prisoner. Fan tributes and retrospectives honoring Bronson's distinctive contributions to film help perpetuate his legacy. His enduring influence is demonstrated by his ability to cut across genres and media, showing that his gritty charm and cinematic effect are just as relevant now as they were when he was alive. Posthumous recognition. Retrospectives, documentaries, and special screenings of Charles Bronson's classic films have honored his contributions to cinema since he died in 2003. Film festivals and organizations have emphasized his contributions to developing the action and Western genres, especially in Europe. Both fans and critics have gained a better grasp of the man behind the legend thanks to documentaries that examine his life and career. It's interesting to note that Bronson's films have recently garnered popularity in scholarly circles, where his understated acting and culturally relevant themes are examined. Hollywood has also recognized his impact, with modern directors referencing him as an inspiration. Beyond film, Bronson's timeless appeal has preserved his legacy in popular culture, guaranteeing that future generations will continue to find and value his work. This posthumous honor confirms Bronson's status as one of Hollywood's most lasting icons and highlights the ageless nature of his achievements.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon